Welcome to Midnight Stories, where the tales never end. Dive into a world filled with mystery, drama, and heart-pounding suspense. If you love stories that keep you guessing, please subscribe to our channel so we can continue this journey together. On a quiet night before Christmas, a modern passenger aircraft carrying more than 100 people disappeared into the darkness above the Florida Everglades. The pilots were experienced. The airplane was one of the most advanced aircraft of its time. There was no storm, no enemy attack, no warning that something terrible was about to happen. But in just a few minutes, a small distraction inside the cockpit would turn a routine landing into one of the most mysterious aviation disasters in history. This is the true story of Eastern Airlines Flight 401. On December 29, 1972, Eastern Airlines Flight 401 began its journey from New York City to Miami, Florida. The aircraft was a Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, one of the newest and most advanced passenger planes in the world. It carried 176 people, 163 passengers, 13 crew members. The flight was commanded by Captain Robert "Bob" Loft, an experienced pilot with thousands of hours in the air. The weather conditions that night were calm. The flight was normal. Passengers relaxed in their seats, expecting to arrive in Miami safely. Nobody knew that the next hour would become one of the darkest moments in aviation history. As Flight 401 approached Miami International Airport, everything appeared normal. The aircraft was preparing to land on runway 9 left. But moments before landing, the crew noticed a small problem. The landing gear indicator light was not showing that the nose landing gear was locked into position. The pilots could not confirm whether the front landing gear was actually down. Captain Loft decided to abort the landing and circle around while they investigated the problem. The aircraft climbed back into the night sky over Florida. The crew had time. There was no immediate danger, but a small technical issue was about to create a chain of events that nobody expected. The pilots placed the aircraft on autopilot while they tried to solve the landing gear indicator problem. Captain Loft, First Officer Albert Stockstill, and Flight Engineer Donald Luis Don Repo focused their attention on the indicator light. They removed parts of the cockpit panel and tried to determine what was wrong. The problem seemed simple, but during this process, something dangerous happened. Nobody noticed that the aircraft was slowly losing altitude. The autopilot was still engaged, but when the crew accidentally disturbed the control system, the airplane began a slow descent. The aircraft was flying over the dark Everglades. Below them was a huge area of swamps and empty land. Inside the cockpit, the crew remained focused on the landing gear problem. The altitude warning sounded, but by then, it was too late. At approximately 11:42 p.m., Eastern Airlines Flight 401 struck the Florida Everglades. The aircraft broke apart as it moved through the swamp. Emergency crews rushed to the scene. Because the crash happened in a remote area, rescue operations were extremely difficult. The darkness, water, and muddy ground created dangerous conditions for rescuers. But there was something remarkable. Many passengers survived the initial impact. Out of 176 people on board, 101 people survived. 75 people lost their lives. It became one of the first major crashes involving the Lockheed L-1011 aircraft. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, began investigating the disaster. Investigators discovered something shocking. The aircraft itself was not the main problem. The plane was capable of flying safely. The crash happened because the crew became distracted while dealing with a minor technical issue. The official investigation concluded that the flight crew failed to monitor the aircraft's altitude during the troubleshooting process. The lesson was clear. Even experienced pilots can make mistakes when attention is focused on the wrong problem. The accident changed aviation forever. Airlines began improving cockpit procedures and crew training. The importance of monitoring altitude became a major safety lesson. But the story of Flight 401 did not end with the investigation. Years later, a strange legend began spreading among airline employees. Some people claimed they saw the ghosts of Captain Bob Loft and flight engineer Don Repo appearing on other Eastern Airlines aircraft. According to these stories, crew members reported seeing the two men inside planes that contained parts recovered from Flight 401. Some witnesses claimed the figures warned them about technical problems before disappearing. The stories became famous after books and television programs discussed the alleged sightings. However, there is no scientific evidence proving these events happened. Many aviation experts believe the stories were created through rumors, fear, and the emotional impact of the tragedy. Eastern Airlines Flight 401 remains one of the most studied aviation disasters in history. It changed the way airlines think about cockpit teamwork, communication, and attention management. The tragedy showed that sometimes the greatest danger is not a dramatic failure. Sometimes it is a simple mistake during an ordinary moment. A warning that every pilot, every airline, and every passenger would remember. On that cold December night, 176 people boarded Flight 401 expecting a normal journey home. They never imagined that their flight would become part of aviation history. The story of Flight 401 is not only about a crash. It is about human attention, human decisions, and the fragile line between safety and disaster. More than 50 years later, the mystery of Flight 401 continues to capture the imagination of people around the world. A flight that disappeared into the darkness of the Everglades, but never disappeared from history. The story of Flight 401 is more than just a story about an aircraft accident. It is a reminder that behind every flight number, there are real people, real families, and real stories that deserve to be remembered. Decades later, the mystery surrounding Flight 401 continues to capture the attention of people around the world. A tragedy that happened in the darkness of the Everglades became a lesson that changed aviation forever. If you enjoyed this story and want to discover more true events, mysterious cases, and unforgettable stories from history, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss our next journey into the stories that shock the world. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next story.